Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are making a really fun video talking about Duelist packs in the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! We got the last one last year. It was the light one, and that finished their run on 6 straight Duelist packs based on a certain attribute. They started with dark, they went all the way around through the 6 and finished with light last year. We still haven't had them printed here in the TCG, but they will be in the next 2 months. So better late than never. And that being said, these products are notoriously known for not being the best products out there. They tend to be very lackluster, and I think similarly to deck build packs, the way they're formatted is just if you only pick 3 characters and you either don't execute some of them, so they're not that enticing competitively, or you just don't pick characters people are as big fan of as you thought, it just leads to like a product that only had 3 selling points to begin with, and for any given player could end up with 0 selling points. And that's a product they completely ignore whatsoever. If you go and look at like the newest deck build pack, Crossover Breakers, Konami did not have to make 2 ready-made new best decks in the format, but they thought it made sense like timeline-wise, adding 2 new competitive strategies. And they just executed it. And that took a product that, again, similar way that it's set up, only has 3 selling points, made it actually really desirable and a pretty successful set overall, even though it has a very similar format. So whether Konami chooses to do one of 3 things, something's got to change. So whether they choose to, change the format of the set, right? They've been on 3 characters per set with 7 cards each. Before they did like 5 or 6 characters at a time and did like 3 or 4 cards each. Depends if they want to switch it up and have more selling points by having more characters, more diversity to kind of hit more players' eyes, catch more players' eyes. So they want to change up the formula, they can do that. They can just execute better, kind of similar thing as Crossover Breakers. Deck build packs haven't changed their formula, but the last one did really well because they just said, hey, let's make 2 of these archetypes bangers out the set. A ton of players, especially competitively, are going to want to pick them up. Boom, huge. Or lastly, they could cut it entirely. They could cut it straight up and just say, we're going to move to a different product with a new format and try and work on a new selling point. Depends. We have no idea. But if they are going to keep Duelist packs, they're probably going to announce it in the next couple weeks, because timeline-wise, based on when they came out with the last Duelist pack last year, would mean that they would announce the next one in the next couple weeks for us here. That being said, if they do, these are the characters I think they need to focus on. Keeping in mind the rules that they have gone through so far with Duelist packs. We're on a pretty long run now of Duelist packs, but just keeping in mind the rules they have set, which is that Konami really doesn't like to do the same archetype more than once. So any archetype that has been in a Duelist pack before, I'm kind of excluding here. Although they have done characters more than once, because some characters in the show play more than one archetype throughout the run, so they can break them up and utilize a character more than once. You'll see that's here. And these are just the ones that I went through. And keep in mind, there is not a great reference source online to find like the most relevant characters from every anime series. I did my best here doing research, being someone who has not seen, I've only seen most of the way through GX, most of the way through 5Ds, and all of DM. It's hard for me to know any of the other series exactly how relevant individual characters are. So keep that in mind. Keep me in line there in the comments. If there are any characters that you thought like, wow, I can't believe you missed that one, that's definitely a character that needs to be made note of. Please throw it down there. And I guess lastly, the other thing too is they have done it very, very, just not often, but here and there they have done it. They've taken a character that does not have its own archetype and made it in a Duelist pack. They've only done it like once or twice. So I left out characters that would be a thing, like characters that exist that just have never had their archetypes printed. There's a lot of ones in Reins. I left those out. It's a possibility, but if it's only 7 cards, especially Reins, where they're link based, so most of these decks would require like 3 or 4 link monsters already. It only leaves you 3 other slots. You can't build an archetype that way. That's link based. But anyway, I've rambled long enough at the beginning of this video. Let's get into the characters I think make the most sense. Let's start from the top here in DM and work our way down. The first character here is Yugi and Magnet Warriors. I think this would be a home run. This one just makes so much sense to me. Yugi is the most popular character in, Yu-Gi-Oh, basically. But the other thing, too, is he's never had Magnet Warriors in here. And last year, we saw Kaiba get ABCs, or the Union deck, whatever you want to call it, XYZ support, in the last Duels pack. And these are supposed to be like equivalent archetypes, right? Yugi's Magnet Warriors versus Kaiba's Union monsters. They're supposed to kind of be like butt heads and kind of be equivalents of each other. So Kaiba's just got good support last year. I'd love to see a Magnet Warrior. 7 cards would be perfect for this archetype. This just makes way too much sense. And if you're going to start a new series with Duelist packs, trying to like get them back up to some of their former glory and just being better overall, what's better start can you do than putting Yugi's face on the new cover? That makes so much sense to me. And the other character, only really 2 good characters that I think that are like top level characters from DM is Pegasus and not Relinquished. I know you kind of see Relinquished there, but actually Toons. This is kind of a Toon artwork I found of Relinquished. So many people love Toons, and I don't know if they could get Toons to be like that level of competitive. I don't know if they'd have to really, really push the cards or not, but people love Toons. And Pegasus is too well known of a character from the original series to have eyes restrict cards in a Duels pack, but not even Toons. I feel like he's probably more well known for Toons. So I think Toons make a ton of sense as well. That could also be a separate Duels pack where Pegasus could even be the cover. Just because he's such a well-known character. I think those 2 would be absolute bangers, and those are the only 2 bangers I have coming out of DM. There was a handful of characters that I thought would make sense, but they've gotten support in the last 2 or 3 years, like decently sized waves of support that just didn't fit for me. There were a couple characters that are in the anime technically, but they're in like the filler arcs of the anime that aren't in the manga. So it seems like Konami doesn't tend to show a lot of love for those characters. So I left some of those out. But these are the only 2 I have sticking for DM. Getting into GX, few more characters than in DM. First up, Jaden Yugi. Jaden Yugi has been in a Duels pack before, but he's been in there with Elemental Heroes, not Neospatians specifically. So I think if they wanted to focus really hard in on Neo/Neospatian support, they could really try and do a little bit more here. I know Jaden gets hero support every year, basically, and so technically his most recent support is probably not that long ago. But I just think he's behind Yugi. He might be, maybe even Kaiba, he might be like the 3rd most popular character in all of the franchise. So I think this would just be another class example of put him on the cover, make it hero support, make it a home run. It's not full hero support, but, main character support, and it'd be a home run. So I think Neospatians would be a cool one. Not to mention, Neospatians specifically. I know Neos has kind of been in certain card effects and stuff, but not the Spatians themselves. So they could kind of center it around them, giving them new forms, making them more relevant. Because really, it's just been Aqua Dolphin in Infernoble Knights over the last couple of years, which is not what you want. Next up, Aster Phoenix with Destiny Heroes. We've had Evil Heroes and Elemental Heroes in these packs, but we've never had Destiny Heroes with Aster Phoenix. So I think that could be another cool one as well. This just makes a ton of sense. I know he comes in a little bit later, but he's still a pretty well-known character. And they got a revamped Diamond Dude. I know he exists, and I know he had his heyday in the past, but his design is so cool. They should just make a new Diamond Dude. Anyway, next up. And listen, you're going to see the theme here. Bastion Masawa with Magnet Warriors. He plays Magnet Warriors in GX. It is for a very short period of time, but I still think it's enough. I still think it's cool. Bastion has been in a Duels pack before. He's in one of the very early ones with the Water Dragon support, bonding H2O, stuff like that. And Bastion is known to be one of those characters where he swaps decks all the time. He's like the guy in the lab. He is like, I need to build the best deck to counter deck other players in the show. And the other archetype he plays that is more recognizable, I feel like, outside of Water Dragon stuff, is the Magnet Warrior. So I think that would be a really cool selection. I think this just makes Magnet Warriors even more likely, right? Because they can go either direction there. I'd love to see it. You guys know I would. Hassleberry. Hassleberry's pretty cool. I almost looked at Rex Raptor for DM as well, but he actually got revamps of twin-headed Rex and stuff in 2023, so doesn't really fully work there. Hassleberry, though, makes a ton of sense for me to pair with the new Jurek support. That really doesn't feel like it's enough to get that deck back up into playable. There's some really nice pieces there, but it's not enough. They still need help. Fuslieberry could be the perfect guys for them to basically give themselves an excuse to make a handful more just dino cards that help them get back into playable. I think that works perfectly. And the last one from GX is Fossil Jim. Fossil Jim. This one's cool. We got these in, I think, was it a Battles of Legend somewhat recently? I know it's actually a couple of years ago, so his cards aren't that old, but I do think because it was the first time they were printed, I do actually think it's possible, and even when they did, it felt like an incomplete archetype. I still think it's possible they could turn around and throw him in there into a Duelist pack. So I still counted him. We saw Axel Brody, which is like almost exactly as relevant of a character, make it in 2 years ago in the Fire Duelist pack, so I think he is totally live. Love me some Fossil Jim. Moving on. 5Ds. There's only 2 characters that I gave any love to in 5Ds, which is kind of a bummer. The first one here is Team Ragnarok and their Nordic archetype. It's kind of been combined into all one archetype these days with the Link one they got a couple years ago when the Reins pack was coming out with new Links, as well as like a one wave of support for them as well. They do have some cool cards. They have some decent cards actually, but it just doesn't all come together. The Link one is way too necessary for them, and it's such a huge choke point. They would have to go away from that. But I do think like, you know, just the Norse mythology thing is so many players find that so cool. If they could really come out with a good wave to actually make this archetype like playable, I think that would be a good choice. And then for me, I just looking at it, I'm like, I actually almost want to make a video talking about how I would go about fixing it, because I have some ideas when I looked at it recently. And the other character from 5Ds is, where is he at? Colin Kessler with Infernity. I don't like the idea of this one, but I do think Colin Kessler's relevant enough in the story, and he does play an archetype that has never been in the Duelist pack before, Infernities. So they could absolutely do it. I don't love the idea of this. This is an archetype known for being degenerate, crazy, wombo combo deck, and having some FTK relevancy. But we also just saw Konami basically in 4 cards fix Gem Knights, who are historically known as an FTK deck competitively, and actually made them pretty cool. So we'll take it. That would be cool. I think that could work. Those are the only 2 characters I have for 5Ds. On to Zexal. This one is dry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but all I have is one character, and it's Dumon and his Star Seraphs. In fact, when I was making a video talking about what characters could make it in for the Light Duelist pack last year, a lot of people threw Dumon's name at me when I didn't mention him. And so if he was relevant enough for them to mention him, I think he's relevant enough to keep in mind for future Duelist packs with his Star Seraphs. Also, his name is so crazy, and people being like he's one of the Barian Emperors, and then looking at his design, he looks ridiculous. I don't know, it just looks like a little dweeb, but it's great. All right, into Arc V. There are some cool ones for Arc V, I will say. You know, these don't tend to be my favorite archetypes, but like there are some ones that I think people would be pretty happy with. First off, Sora, Pierce, and Fluffles. Never been in a Duelist pack. I know a lot of people are big fans of Fluffles. They get small support here and there. In fact, I think a couple of years ago they got like small wave, but as a fan favorite, I still think this one could be live to end up in a Duelist pack with 7 new cards. I think that would be kind of cool. Next up, Declan Akaba. Again, support a couple years ago, but like when I read synopsises of Arc V, Declan is one of the most relevant characters. So, you know, I think he could still fit the vibe check for making it into a Duelist pack. I'm actually kind of shocked he hasn't been in one yet. He kind of, reading how relevant he technically is for the story, it seems like he is, like he should have been at this point inside of a Duelist pack, but not yet. And the last one is Yuto with Phantom Knights. I don't know exactly how relevant this guy is, but I know how much people like Phantom Knights. They've kind of been power crept out of the game fairly recently in the last couple of years, but this is a fan favorite, so I think this one also makes sense as long as the character is technically relevant enough. And then we get to Frins. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. I wish I could put Altergeist in here. But Altergeist got like a decent wave like 2 years ago, like barely 2 years ago, if even that long ago. So I don't think they would throw 7 more cards their way, especially when I have people in my comment section saying like their one link one away, even if it's like a vanilla link one would make the deck good enough, almost like Prank Kids. It just doesn't feel like the kind of archetype that would really end up in here with 7 new cards, but I wish it would, because for me that'd be the archetype I'd want to see here the most, but still. Anyway, we start off here with 2 George Gore archetypes. So I know because Duelist packs like just tend to not have Reins characters, just because this, like when most of these Duelist packs were coming out, Reins was the anime series currently going on, so they just didn't really find the need to. Duelist packs tend to be more nostalgia based. So George Gore, Dino Wrestlers, and Gouki. I'd rather see Gouki of the 2. Dino Wrestler has like 25 archetypal cards, and they're all terrible aside from Pank. Basically. It's crazy. So they may need it more. I'm just not sure 7 cards would do it. I guess it could just end up being like more Dino support, and if they're like somewhat generic, they could work with, you know, some of the recent Jurax support, but I don't know. But Gouki is cool. Gouki has a really good engine setup. They just don't have like a great win condition to go for. So give them a cool like mid-rangey win condition that doesn't make them build like a crazy wombo combo board. And I think Gouki could actually be kind of cool. And the last one here is Rocket. Yeah, Rocket is pretty popular. Dragon Link, you know, that'd be an easy one to slot in, and you'd be looking at it like 7 new Rocket cards. That's going to be meta, probably. New Dragon Link stuff. And Varus is a pretty relevant character as well for Reins. Outside of that, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's a handful of Reins characters and archetypes that have never been printed before. They don't tend to do that. They did it with like Ishizu when they made the Ishizu fairies. But they don't do it that often. They really, really don't. So I didn't include any of them. And also, like I said, they're all link-based archetypes. So like you'd probably have to start with at least 3 link monsters, which only leaves 4 other cards in this set to even get them anywhere. They're better off being in a core set or Animation Chronicle where they can actually get 10 to 12 cards on an initial wave to kind of fill out that whole archetype with 1 drop. But there you go. That's everything I have here. Like I said at the beginning of the video, there's just not a great source online to find like a full, like comprehensive list of every character from every anime series and their relevancy. So if there's any character you think I missed that still fit the rules of past Duelist packs, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that down below. But as for today, that's everything I have. Let me know what you'd want to see the most. If I had to pick my Duelist pack, right? If I had to pick like exactly what I'd want out of these ones that make the most sense to me, definitely Yugi with Magnet Warriors. That would be best case scenario for me. If that's in, I probably wouldn't even care what else would be in there. I would probably pick Team Ragnarok with the Nordic support, and maybe that doesn't make a ton of sense. You're like, why? It's so bad. But maybe if I make a video soon talking about the Nordic archetype and how I think Konami could go about fixing it with a 5 to 7 card wave, that might make sense. And then lastly, I might throw Gouki in there. Again, I like the engine of Gouki a lot. They just need to give them the pieces that allow them to be like a cool mid-range strategy. They don't have to make them a crazy wombo deck. They don't have Appaloosa to climb up into and stuff like that, so they can still make them like a cool deck like that. But they have to give them the right pieces, so I'm still into it though. So those 3 would probably be the picks for me. But let me know your thoughts down below if I missed anything and what your 3 picks would be, assuming they keep the same formula going forward. And until next time, at least on this topic, we'll just be sitting and waiting for either an announcement on a new Duelist pack or an announcement for whatever product will probably replace it if they don't choose to keep it around. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe for more stuff from me like this down the line, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.